Well, hello again, and welcome to my latest project. Recently, a very good friend of mine gave me some beautiful logs of fruit woods. He gave me apple and plum, and also a beautiful chunk of laburnum. Now, these are beautifully grained woods, and I'd love to turn them into some lovely knife handles, among other things. But the wood is quite freshly chopped and won't be suitable for a long time if I don't do something with it. So I looked up all about wood stabilization, and that's what this video is about. I'm going to have my first go at stabilizing wood in a vacuum chamber so that I can use that fresh wood very quickly to make knife handles. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you my vacuum pump very quickly. I'll cut into it now. I built that before, but there's a very good video by Blackbeard Projects about how to build this. So I didn't need to show you how to do it. But let me show you the wood and we'll go from there. So as I mentioned, my good friend Guy, who lives down in Hampshire, brought me these beautiful logs, and this one is plum, and I've already cut it on the bandsaw so you could have a look at the beautiful patterns on this, and as you can imagine that would make a beautiful knife handle. But to give you an idea, if I use my moisture meter here, it's 11% moisture, which is, you know, unworkable really. That's the plum. This is the apple wood, which I have become very, very fond of. Look at these burrs. I mean, I can do something out of these, definitely. I think they're just stunning. But again, 9. I've had these drying for a bit longer. And finally, the most beautiful, in my opinion, which is the laburnum. As you can see, this is absolutely beautiful wood. And this is better, 6%, 5%, but still a bit too moist. Now, I've cut some scales to make the knife handles. Guy's asked me to make him a knife with laburnum handles. So these are the scales I've cut for him. And I'm also going to make a handle out of the usable part of the apple burl, which I think are beautiful. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is to dry the wood, and that's going to happen in a toaster oven. I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. That is the first stage. So this is where the fun's going to start. This is a little toaster oven which I bought for £30 at Lidl's supermarket. It's perfectly adequate. I've used it already a couple of times to dry bits of wood. I have no confidence whatsoever in the thermostat. So I have bought an oven thermometer on Amazon. It was about £8, I think, something like that. I'm not sure. And it says open with care. I have no sense of how I'm supposed to open this thing, but I will get there. I think I'll probably go and get some scissors. I don't know about any of you guys out there, but I have a workshop full of the most amazing tools and amazingly sharp chisels and things, but I've only got a rubbish pair of scissors. I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't know what it is about scissors. I don't seem to get the pair I want. Anyway, here is the oven thermometer. They say in big letters not to place it into a hot oven or a preheat oven. And the other thing is I don't want to do that. Don't know what you do. Look. So actually, I'll tell you what. Let's make a quick note again of what those moisture levels were. So we have apple and we have laburnum. So sort of average around 11%. The apple it's better. I'm still going to say, let's say averaging 7. Okay, so it's got to go to 105 degrees for about 24 hours. So I'm going to reposition the camera so hopefully you'll be able to see the thermometer. Okay, so I have a big problem with this oven. Is I want to heat this, dry this wood at 110 or 100, around 100 degrees Celsius. And although I've got it on the lowest setting, which says 100 here, my thermometer is telling me that the best I'm getting here, or the lowest temperature I'm getting, is about 125. And I think that's too hot. I'm not happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wood out of this oven and put it in my heat treating oven, which has a PID and is therefore very accurate. So now the wood is in the PID oven, the heat treating oven, and I will set it to 100 degrees. So now the temperature is going to rise to 100 degrees, and I leave it there for 24 hours approximately. So I'll catch up with you when all that's done. So something interesting happened. I think I told you before I was supposed to leave, according to the other videos, I was supposed to leave the wood in for 24 hours. And I didn't feel comfortable leaving my homemade oven on for 24 hours at night in case, you know, I don't know, it caught fire. I became a bit paranoid about it. And then I came down to check it. And I switched it off at about midnight last night, so I suppose it was on for probably 6 hours. Maybe 6 hours, and I took out the wood, and it's at 0. It's dry. Now at first I thought my meter was broken, but it's not. I tested it on a piece that hadn't been in there, and it's reading the same. But the wood that I put in the oven last night and then allowed to cool in the oven overnight is at 0. So job done. And what I suggest to you is don't listen blindly to me or to anybody else. Experiment, try it out and see what your oven is doing, the way you're doing it, and see how long it needs to stay. Anyway, I'm delighted, that's all done. I kept it in here for a few hours. I've had to do other things today, and it's not absorbed any more moisture. So now we're on to the next stage where I'm going to prepare things for the stabilizing. I'm going to leave these in here for now, because it seems that it's a fairly moisture-free atmosphere. And we'll move on to the next stage. So now we're going to move on to the stabilizing part of the process, and the stuff we're going to use is this. It's cactus juice resin. I've done a fair bit of research on it, and it seems that really this is the best, and I'm not going to deviate from this. I don't want to waste my time. The truth is it's not cheap. It's in this country it's about £60 for this gallon or half gallon, which is just under 2 litres. The good news is that you can use it again and again. So what hasn't been absorbed by the wood, you can pour it back into the bottle and reuse it. I believe it's got a shelf life of about 6 months. So you'll be able to stabilize quite a lot of wood with it. It comes in 2 parts. It's got this bit, which is the activator, which I'm going to mix with it before you can use it. 2 important things to note is that this is heat activated. So although we're going to put it in the vacuum chamber, that is to take out all the bubbles and all the air out of the wood so that the resin can go in, it doesn't fill gaps. Okay, so if you've got wood that's got gaps in it, you'll need to use some sort of epoxy in the traditional way, if that's what you need to do. This is purely in order to take wood that is still a bit, I love the way on the bottle they call it punky. So it's maybe a little bit rotten in the middle, it's got air gaps, etc. But the great thing is that if it's young wood, it will turn it rock hard. I mean, not so rock hard that you can't work it, but basically it becomes a different thing. I mean, nearly, as far as I can understand, sort of, what's the word? Petrified. It turns the wood into some sort of kind of petrified wood. Keep it at low temperature, make sure it doesn't get hot because it's heat activated. It says very clearly keep below 29 degrees centigrade or 85 Fahrenheit. So now I'm going to mix it up and then we're going to start moving to the vacuum pump aspect. I've got to shake it vigorously. I am being vigorous. I am. Okay. Right, so as my wood is now at sort of pretty much zero moisture, the next trick is to totally immerse it in the cactus juice. And I believe it's pretty important to make sure that it goes above the level of the wood, because as it gets absorbed into the wood, obviously the level's going to go down and you don't want it to, oh, there I've slightly overfilled it, I confess. Hang on a sec. That's probably better. Right, so in it goes. And obviously you have to weigh it down with a piece that's something heavy, because otherwise it's simply going to, the wood's just going to float up. Okay, so now we put the top of the vacuum pump on. As I say, I'll put a link to how to make this. It's really simple, and if you can't be bothered to use a compressor like this, you really can just use a vacuum pump. They sell them, as I say, on eBay. All right, so that's got to be closed. I'm going to start with that closed because it starts creating the vacuum. As you can see, there's quite a bit of foam developing in the jar, and that's exactly what you want, a lot of bubbles rising. Now what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to, when it calms down a bit, I'm going to release that vacuum, because that what happens there is that it kind of forces the resin into the wood. I mean, if you look, I'm going to try and film so you can see down and see what's happening down below. Hang on, there's all the bubbles happening. Okay, so now the bubbles are calming down, and what I'm going to try and do is release the vacuum very, very slowly. Okay, and I'm going to try and reposition the piece of steel there because it looks to me like some of the wood wants to float up. Okay, so now there is a lot of oxygen back into the vacuum chamber, and I'm going to restart the vacuum and get it right up to full vacuum pressure. So now I'm at 27, minus 27 bar, which is pretty good actually. I think that's probably as high as this system will go. Yep, so I'm going to lock it in here. And I'm going to leave it like this for about 4 hours. Well, welcome back after quite a long time. I turned on the pump and the vacuum at about 6 p.m. yesterday, and at around midnight, although the actual pump was off, the vacuum was still on full and there was still bubbles coming out of the wood. So I decided to go to bed and leave it overnight, and I can't think that would do any harm. And around 7 a.m. this morning, I came in and I released the vacuum, and then it has to soak for a while longer, and it's been soaking now for about 6 hours, and that should be plenty. So now the next stage is, as you know, or as I said before, the resin is activated by heat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wood out of the resin, get rid of as much of the residue as I can, wrap it in foil, and then it's going to go into the oven to cook. Okay. That's a piece of the laburnum. It's already looking so beautiful, isn't it? Okay, there we have it. The wood is now in the oven, separated so the air can circulate. And the recipe I've got is that it needs to bake for 2 hours at 95 degrees Celsius. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're now exactly 2 hours and time to take these out. Okay, so as you can see, there's some tidying up to do and some scraping of the resin, but it feels completely different. It really does. It's sort of, it's hard to tell, but it's kind of, well, listen, time will tell, right? So these are going to be scales for knife handles, and I'll make little videos about making those knives. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Look, thanks so much for watching, and I hope this was of interest. I understand that it's a process that will really only be of interest if it's something you're considering doing. But what are the advantages of it? Well, first of all, I can rely now on wood that I find or that I'm given. You know, sometimes somebody will let you know that they've cut down an apple tree or a plum tree or and if you're really lucky, a laburnum, and you can ask for a log. And as long as you've got a saw and things, you can make your own knife scales without waiting for a year for it to dry out and be useful. Another point is that this is an incredibly useful process. I didn't particularly do it on this one, but when you've got, as I said before, what they call punky wood, so wood that's a little bit soft, a little bit rotten in the middle, it doesn't fill the gaps, but it'll make slightly softer wood workable. This process is used a lot by wood turners and people who carve wood, etc., because they can use recently chopped wood and work it. So it's not just for the knife maker, it's for anybody who wants to take a nice, like for example, a big burl, a maple burl, or from another tree that's got kind of impurities in it or softness in it. You can use this process. It's not cheap. Building the vacuum pump, even though I only used kind of second-hand stuff, the compressor was free, but you know, the brass bits add up a little bit. The perspex is pretty expensive because you need pretty thick perspex to make sure it doesn't crack under 27 bar vacuum. And stainless steel pans are not particularly cheap unless you happen to have one that you're going to use. Anyway, I hope it was of use. If you like it, please comment, and of course, if you feel like it, I'd love you to subscribe. Thanks very much, and thanks for sticking with it.